Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, February 15th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my over 46 years of doing therapy. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it'll take you to a page where you can download and listen to, or download and read, Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter is a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using for over 16 years to improve my quality of life, to manage my emotions, to turn my negative emotional states into infallible guides as to what I need to do to change, unload negative baggage, change my perception, get a clearer, more accurate picture of what's actually going on in life, and restore myself to that calm, peaceful perspective that allows me to see things clearly. And then whatever decisions I make, I am far more likely to be satisfied with, contented with, or even happy with. You can also download the actual worksheet process on that page. You can download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process or given testimonials about how the active application of that tool has improved their quality of life. And you can go to your app store and type in the 3 words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. And by the time you're starting typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. And click on that. It'll let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce even younger people to this set of tools. So we hope you do that soon and often, and once you do that, you can give us a call at 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. Here we are on the 15th day of September. That means we're 46 days into the year, and we're following up with our commitment to read A Course in Miracles lesson each day. Today's lesson, lesson 46, says, God is the love in which I forgive. God is the love in which I forgive. The commentary reads, God does not forgive because he has never condemned. And there must be condemnation before forgiveness is necessary. Forgiveness is the great need of this world, but that is because this is a world of illusions. Those who forgive are thus releasing themselves from illusions, while those who withhold forgiveness are binding themselves to illusions. As you condemn only yourself, so do you forgive only yourself. Yet, although God does not forgive, his love is nevertheless the basis of forgiveness. Fear condemns, and love forgives. Forgiveness, thus, undoes what fear has produced, returning the mind to the awareness of the Creator. For this reason, forgiveness can be truly called salvation. It is the means by which illusions disappear. Today's exercises require at least 3 full 5-minute practice periods. and as many shorter ones as possible. Begin the longer practice periods by repeating today's idea to yourself as usual. Close your eyes as you do and spend a minute or two in searching your mind for those whom you have forgotten, for those whom you have not forgiven. It does not matter how much you have not forgiven them. You have forgiven them entirely or not at all. If you're doing the exercise as well, you should have no difficulty in finding a number of people you have not forgiven, or a number of people for whom you are still in the illusion that they are the problem causing your upset. It is a safe rule that anyone you do not like is a suitable subject. Mention each one by name and say, God is the love in which I forgive you, Sally. The purpose of the first phase of today's practice periods is to put you in a position to forgive yourself after you have applied the idea to all those who have come to mind. Then you tell yourself, God is the love in which I forgive myself. Then devote the remainder of the practice period to adding related ideas such as, God is the love in which I love myself. God is the love in which I am blessed. The form of the application may vary considerably, but the central idea should not be lost of sight. You might say, for example, I cannot be guilty because I am son of the Creator. I have already been forgiven. No fear is possible in a mind beloved of God. There is no need to attack because love has forgiven me. This practice period should end, however, with a repetition of today's idea as originally stated. God is the love in which I forgive. The shorter practice periods may consist of either a repetition of the idea for today in the original form or in a related form as you prefer. Be sure, however, to make specific applications if they are needed. They will be needed at any time during the day when you become aware of any kind of negative reaction to anyone, present or not. In that event, tell that person silently within your own mind, God is the love in which I forgive you. Pam Grout has a writing about today's lesson. She titles her chapter 46, The F Word for Beginners. And she quotes Paul Selig, who said, leave your fear at the train station. Pam writes, according to A Course in Miracles, forgiveness, the F word, is an always available get-out-of-jail-free card. It's the answer to damn near everything. The problem is, we don't really understand what it means. Forgiveness doesn't tell me to overlook something someone did to me. The F word, according to the Course, means it is impossible for anyone to do something to me. For me to think, even for a brief moment, that I understand the world from the tiny bits of my perception is an epic fail. All I can see, all I will ever see, the viewfinder of my limited perception shows me. If my perception is fixed, nothing can come between me and the goal that is chosen. Let's say I choose the perception that so-and-so is a misogynistic jerk. If that perception stays fixed, meaning I refuse to forgive, nothing, not a miracle, not a sign, not an evidential slap in the face, will allow any other reality to manifest. Likewise, if my perception is convinced that money is hard to come by, the world's unlimited abundance cannot get through my blockade. It's right there, eager to unfold in my life, but my perception has put up orange cones. Forgiveness means knowing my perception is forever tiny and incomplete. Forgiveness is to defy the lie that something is wrong, to defy the lie that life blows, that so-and-so is a horrible, evil person. The best feature of forgiveness is that it relieves me of having to make judgments. Knowing I can't and don't understand the whole of life, the whole of existence, knowing that I can't and don't understand the whole of life and existence relieves me of having to decide what's good, what's bad, and what decisions I'm incapable of making. It literally sets me free. Today, I use my get-out-of-jail-free card during the 3 5-minute practice periods. I close my eyes, think of all the people I have yet to forgive, and repeat this phrase: Source is the love in which I forgive. That's Pam Grout's Chapter 47 from her book, A Course in Miracles Experiment. And we have plenty of time for conversation. 46 minutes left. 563-999-3581. How are you? How's your life? How was your weekend? What are your questions about the Course in Miracles lessons? I thought I would add that Alain de Botton had a very good to my eye and ear, very useful to my way of thinking, interview with Krista Tippett that they replayed over the weekend. And I highly recommend it. If you go to onbeing.org and check out the podcasts and you search for Alain de Botton. The last name is B-O-T-T-O-N. Since there are some people in the chat room, I am endeavoring to go to that website and copy and paste the link to the interview with Alain de Botton into the chat. But if you go to onbeing.org and search for Alain de Botton, A-L-A-I-N, lowercase d-e, capital B-O-T-T-O-N. And the title of this interview is The True Hard Work of Love and Relationships. And I highly recommend it for a whole wide variety of reasons. Alain de Botton, I believe, was 23 years old when he wrote a book on love that was internationally recognized. And he is no longer 23. He's now been married for 12 years and has a depth of knowledge and experience and studying that I think comes out in the interview. But I highly recommend that. And Susan, welcome. How can we support you today?
Hi, Dr. Kim. I wanted to give a report. You had given me a mind shifter, and it's taken several days to really amazingly make some headway on this, what I felt was just an unfixable issue with holding on to the well-being of my son as a condition of my well-being. And the symptoms of healing have been amazing too. You said the mind shifter was, a woman who is unable to help her son live a happy, healthy life does not deserve to live a happy, healthy life. And right away, I realized that she certainly does deserve to, but it's not possible. So I had to shift the mind shifter a little bit. But why isn't it possible? And then a whole raft of, and I used your patter, forgiveness patter too, which was very helpful because it slows us down. And it started with memories of when he was a newborn. I had been doing natural childbirth, but they gave me some sort of a drug. I'm not sure what it was for. He wasn't early or anything. There was no need for it. Maybe it was for pain. I don't know, but I wasn't mentally altogether there. I was awake, but he was born. They announced that it was a boy, and I started chatting to Tim Bingham and said, wow, he got here, but I wasn't attentive to him. And then I heard the nurse say, doctor, it's been a minute, which means he wasn't breathing. And then I sort of came to, and he breathed. And he was okay, except they said he was under par in some ways, not in danger, but just some numbers were not where they should have been, and they put him in something called an Anderson box. It's like an incubator, but they put that by my bed, and it was they said he was cold, and his oxygen or something was under par. So here's this tiny little man by my bed in a diaper, separated from me, mouthing his fists and moving slowly around, and I let him be in that box, which was my instruction. But forever after that, I felt that I'd done the wrong thing, both by not being attentive to him right away and by letting him stay in that box, whereas I probably should have taken him out and put him on my chest, which is something they now do. They call it kangaroo care, where if a baby is premature, they'll spend time in the incubator, but then the parents will hold the baby on their chest for contact and warmth and everything else that they get. And so forever after, I always told a lie about the Anderson box. I said, when the doctor left the room, I took him out and put him on my chest. This lie I told until a few days ago as a result of this worksheet and talking to Ellen. She and I continued processing. In fact, I missed part of Michael's show because she called and we went right to business on it, and it was great. And I told her that I had been telling that lie, as if I had hurt him by letting him stay in the box. And I'm not even sure of that. I've been on the internet, can't find an Anderson box anywhere. That's what they called it. I don't know what the name is now. But then I thought, these are ways in which I hurt my boy, and how I'm going to atone for that is to be over vigilant for him now. This was an amazing revelation. But the healing crisis part of it was really, really painful. I went into this depression, like saying, I no longer need to think this way, but I don't know how to be. And I was just in despair for a couple of days. And I read Michael's Symptoms of Healing, and emotional healing includes depression in some cases. And I thought, maybe that's what's going on. Meanwhile, in real life, my son has not been particularly in touch. Going about his business, I've been saying prayers for him, picturing him well, doing all that, but I have not called to check up on him nor texted him. And then yesterday, Tim and I were at a virtual Zoom church service, and I got a call from Jonathan, and I popped out of the room, and he said, I'm on my way to the grocery store, and I'd love to visit. Why don't you come? And I said, I'm in the middle of a church service. He said, oh, it's a Zoom service. Come on, just come on. And I said, no, I'm going to stay. And it was partly my new self-instruction to continue with my life and not just jump at every chance to accommodate him. He said he'd like to talk, and I said, well, what's the day like? Do you have time? 45 minutes is all I need, and then can you wait? No. Maybe I'll call you this afternoon. Well, he didn't call, and I was okay with that, and I'm thinking this is what it means in the evaluation code when they say a problem with truth. My distorted thinking was preventing me from seeing the reality of the independence of my son, whether he's in a good mood or not. I don't need to hold on. He'll do his moods or whatever he does, but I don't need to hold on. And in not holding on, I'm seeing the actual level of his involvement with us and with me, wanting to confide, wanting to complain about his worries. And I've also seen that some interactions with my son are toxic to me, and I need to take care of myself. I need to say, I don't want to talk about this. This is yours. Can't help you. I know you can help you. I know you've got all the stuff it needs. I can't do it. This has been extremely liberating. So all of that is part of my report. And I just wanted to thank you for the combination of a mind shifter that misfired, which meant that all I had to do was tweak it, which meant your mind shifter was perfect, because then I realized what the true mind shifter should be. And all these memories came up because of the forgiveness pattern, the slowing down, taking time to let thoughts come. And those were the biggest thoughts. There are others, not going to bat for him at school when they set up this talented and gifted program and he wasn't in it. I could have gone there and said, this is disgusting, how you're inviting some kids to feel terrible about themselves by separating the gifted kids out. Don't do it. I didn't do that either. It didn't even occur to me to do it. It was the way things were. And I wish I could go back, but I can't, and that's a goal I've had to let go of. What is. So anyway, I'll stop and take a breath, as you would tell me to do. Stop, take a breath.
Yes, I would, but I had confidence you'd get there, and you did.
Thanks.
Well, so congratulations on that level of honesty, that which is really the only way any of us get truly healthy, is when we're able to face those lies that we tell ourselves and lies that we tell others. And every time I hide a truth from myself, it's an attempt to hide from myself, a self-loathing. And one of the things I talk about with secrets is it's our secrets that keep us sick, and here's the exact dynamic that is the cause of my secrets keeping me sick. If it takes me 5 or 10 units of mental, emotional energy to keep a secret, let's say I'm pretending to be a very healthy person and I keep candy in one of my desk drawers, and every bit of energy that I have to spend to make sure that drawer never gets opened when anybody else is around, or that there's always paperwork covering up the candy.
Yeah.
Every bit of energy that I spend to keep that secret, an identical amount of energy is fed into the negative conclusion within me that I'm damaged, I'm broken, and unlovable. And if whoever I'm keeping this secret from found out about it, they would either attack me or run away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So every secret at any level that I keep, and this is not the same as privacy. I like to help people understand the difference between secrets and privacy. I imagine how convoluted my life would get if I tried to convince people that I don't eat or drink and I don't have to use the bathroom. How much energy would I have to spend trying to conceal that?
Mm-hmm.
So So I'm not, I'm not trying to keep it a secret that I have to eat and drink to stay alive and that I have to use the bathroom. Right?
Right.
I'm not trying to keep that a secret. But I do keep it private. Hopefully you're never going to show up for a session and find me in the parking lot with my pants around my ankles doing my business, right? So
Right.
I keep it private. I keep it private. So we're not saying that I have to tell everybody everything. And we are saying that every secret I keep feeds my sickness, my negative conclusion that I'm damaged, broken, unworthy, and if anybody found out this secret, they would either attack me or run away from me.
Wow, this is
so
huge,
the level of work that you are describing in this mind shifter and the worksheet, the process that we were talking about, is exactly the level that we need to heal and grow at our deepest levels.
Mm. Wow. Well, some of the discussions you and I have had on homosexuality, bisexuality, fluid sexuality, and stuff like that, you allowed me to reveal a secret about myself that I have always been deeply ashamed about, even though, thank God, there are brave souls who are going out there, same-sex married people who call each other wife and wife. I so appreciate them for their health, that they don't feel as if they have to keep that a secret. And I realize mine is generational, cultural, generational trauma. There's a musician in our church, for instance, who's in his late 80s, and he's been single all his life because he would like to have had a partner, and he never let himself have a partner because he was too ashamed, and yet everybody figured, what the story was, but he didn't want anyone to know. And he and I have had discussions. I feel as if the level of honesty in your and my discussions on the radio show that happened way back when Michael said homosexuality is the result of trauma or something like that, and that got all sorts of wheels going. This has enabled me to talk to this musician in my church, and very openly, and he's been very open with me, and I think it's probably been good for this old person who grew up in a different era to realize he's fine. He's the way he's supposed to be, and everything is all right. Kind of late, but so, yeah.
Well, only if you think about yourself just as a body. It's late only if you think about yourself just as a body.
You're right. Got it.
Otherwise,
That's
it's
true.
Imperfect timing.
Yeah. Well, so I have two other things to report too, but if you want to stay on this for any reason, I feel as if I've said my stuff, and I just feel a whole kind of, I feel as if a belt has been loosened by a few notches on my chest, as if it's possible to let my son not breathe for a whole minute, and I don't have to race in there, and I can even not know. So
perfect. Congratulations. So what else would you like to share or discuss?
That I had two customers for worksheets. I told you about one of them, a young man, and I used the whole worksheet with him, including the forgiveness pattern, and the results seem not to be good. His mother called me and said, he said he understood everything and he agreed with everything and he learned a lot, but he's still yelling at me because it's my fault for doing things around the house that weren't good for his sister. And it's as if he He's like Helen Schuckman. I know it's true and I don't believe it. He's got his one foot in one side and one foot in the other. So that's one report, and I'd love to work with him again, but he has not initiated it, and he isn't a client. He's a friend, so I could offer. I could say, anytime you want to talk, and we could tackle a different type of worksheet. We used Magda's worksheet, and we used Magda's. You said simplify, but Magda sent me hers, which is like folding under and folding over, and it was a much simpler version. And the other one is my grandson, my middle grandson, did a worksheet, and man, he got it so fast. His brain was so ready. He understood the denial principle immediately. And we're going to be working probably fairly regularly. And the forgiveness pattern was really good, too, because it let us slow down. What I did is took copious notes. He didn't have the worksheet with him. I took notes, typed up all about healing crises, power person, and listed all of the elements in the worksheet that showed that it was a massive hydra. And I said, so here are possible topics for other worksheets. And, this is a lot of information, and he's at school, but it was just great to be able to work that with him. And his mind is very fast and scattered. He's possibly slightly on the autism spectrum by his own thinking. And I think he may be right, but he said he kept going off into these grand ideas, and finally we had talked for about an hour and a half, and he said, well, I don't really need to get off the phone. Do you want to still talk? But we had run out, and I said, well, how would you feel about doing a worksheet? I only introduced it after an hour and a half of hearing him out. And he said, sure, yeah. And then we were off and running for another hour. So that's reports number 2 and 3.
Wonderful. Well, it is it's truly amazing how when a younger mind is exposed and willing, how much progress can be made, because without the decades of neural pathways and practice in, the blaming and self-loathing and all of that, it's just for those of us of a certain age, it's mind-boggling how quickly the younger people can grasp these concepts and make good use of them.
All events are neutral. He said, wow, that is actually true. In themselves, that's what they are. And so he got the idea of thought disorder immediately. Oh, it was just so rich, so good. Yeah. Right.
Excellent.
Thanks. Do you have a cold, Dr. Tim? You sound plugged
well,
up.
I'm a little sinusy, but not, not under the weather.
Good.
It is
Good.
It is very cold here. It is living in a house without a humidifier or anything, so that's probably what you're hearing.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm glad it's
but
not
all is well.
a thing. Good. Good. Well, thanks for taking my call. Thanks for listening.
Well, thank you for calling and for doing your work and for spreading it around to your grandson, etc. It is, as you know, it's highly rewarding to do your own work, and it's a little, frosting on the cake or a little gravy on the steak, if you will, to see somebody else get a hold of the work as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing
it. He said. Yeah.
Say again, he called his mother and what?
And said the worksheet was amazing and he learned a lot. So that's good news, yeah. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'd be happy to entertain your comments or questions if you listen to the podcast with Alonda Baton about love. And
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like a French name or something. Botton, or something like that. Got it. I'm just going to write that down because I didn't before. Botton, you said.
Yeah, Alain, lowercase de, capital Botton.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Krista Tippett. Okay. She's a friend of my daughter's. Isn't it cool? Yeah. They went to divinity school together.
Who, Krista Tippett?
Yeah. At Yale Divinity. So.
Yeah, she's been at this a long time.
Right.
Talking to intelligent people, grappling with powerful, deep questions about humanity and meaning and relationships. And
yeah, she's amazing. Okay. Well, thanks, Dr. Tim. And it's funny how the miracles lessons feed right into all this. Just they're like little bulwarks, like stakes in the tent. They just help.
Well, it's powerful, this thing that Jung called synchronicity, that most of us aren't trained to think of or pay attention to, and yet it is just the way our energy systems work. I mean, energy is energy, and it's, when vibrations get set up, they just resonate each other, and of course, if you think you're just a physical body, then it doesn't make any sense at all that there would be anything like synchronicity or resonance. But when you understand that everything is energy, then when these things happen, you can just celebrate them. And once you start to recognize that they happen, you can start looking for them, and you'll see them because they're always there. Most people I know that find out about synchronicity or Jung's concept of it, and they start having some experience of it, they, at one point or another, they reach the point where they say, oh my gosh, these synchronicities are everywhere.
Yeah.
And they realize they've always been there, it's just that they didn't see them before. They were always, prior to their waking to them, they were busy complaining about things or wishing things would be different than they are, rather than looking for all the blessings that are always unfolding in our lives. And the connections and the loving or blessings or productive things that happen when the day goes in a direction that we didn't want it to. If we can get out of the habit of complaining that the day isn't the way we want it to, we can easily see how it's unfolding even better than we could ever have imagined. But if we're busy complaining, we can't see that. So, is there anything else we can support you with today?
No, I don't think so. Thanks. I'm going to keep listening. Oh, I wanted to ask you, I was on a walk to an appointment on a very loud street last Friday, I think it was, when Audrey called in. And I was listening with the phone right up against my ear, and I missed so much of what she said. But I remember that she was talking about a son who had died, and how I was thinking about her. She got frozen in time, kind of, with her guilt. And I was thinking what a challenge that must be for her, whereas my son is alive and I have a chance to have some kind of a shift in our way of relating, and I get more chances. And in a sense, she doesn't get those chances. I have nothing to say about, I didn't hear what you said to her. I even had to turn off the phone finally. So I missed a lot of what both of you said, but could go back and listen. I did not do that. But
well, she ended up doing a worksheet.
Oh, she did. Good.
Yeah, she worked through a worksheet, which,
Great.
of course, as everyone who does that for themselves or on the show, is a blessing for themselves and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up with a rather dramatic shift that she couldn't understand.
Right, it happens.
I mean, how do you go from where she was to some kind of joy or something? I don't know. So if you didn't listen to that and you want any, you want to hear another powerful process, it's available in the archives, as so many of these shows are.
Yeah. It occurred to me with my grandson and the son of my friend that just spending the time and staying on the topic is healing. So if she didn't understand, maybe part of it was simply that you went there with her and the whole community went there with her. She's not by herself. Now, I haven't listened to the worksheet, but there is something in the doing of it that is healing too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's the core tool in this work for a reason.
Yeah.
It is a very, very powerful tool. And, there are times when we have dramatic insights and powerful shifts, and there are many, many more times when I do the worksheet and I just kind of go blank, or I feel a little bit uncomfortable in a different way. If I started with anger and then I'm in fear and then I'm in confusion or hurt, and I might have to go through a whole series of worksheets before I end up with a result that I would say is positive. And yet that's all part of the process. It's the unraveling, as the Way of Mastery says, that every time I do a forgiveness process, because I'm removing the garbage, because I'm dismantling the illusions and hallucinations about how somebody else has done me wrong or hurt me, I take myself deeper into the purity of my own consciousness.
Wow. That's good. And that's where that truth thing is, in that personal code evaluation.
Exactly.
I never understood that. But yeah, right. Okay, Dr. Tim. Thanks.
You're entirely welcome, and far more deserving than you yet know. But keep at it. It's coming.
Thanks. Maybe I'll yet know it. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. I will mute you so you can listen to the rest of the show, and I will invite anybody else to raise a hand. We have 15 minutes or 14 minutes left before we do the switch over. 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. Perhaps you're curious about why I would recommend the talk by Alain de Botton or the interview with Krista Tippett. Perhaps you want to recommend somebody for us to interview. I have an interview coming up on Wednesday of this week with the author of the book, We Are the Luckiest, the surprising something about a sober life. And perhaps you've got a comment or a question if you've read that book that you would like me to ask the author. That would be something you could email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can give us a call now at 999-3581 and press 1, and let us know. What are your thoughts? I think I've recommended on this show before the book The Tribe, but I think it's Sebastian Junger, Junger. And there's a book that talks about how important our communal living situations are, our connection to each other in community is to our mental and emotional health, and how the society that we've created is so fundamentally isolating, and therefore many of the benefits of our community and communal living are lost to us. And that's a powerful message at many levels. Originally, primarily, that is a book about veterans returning from war or from service, but it's also a book about what are the isolating practices in our culture doing for us or to us, stealing from us in terms of the benefits of communal living, the communal mind and healing. So it's not a big book, and it's only about 150 pages of actual book, and there's lots of references. But so that's another good book recommendation for someone who wants to either support somebody who's a veteran, or if you are a veteran, to talk about what you might be going through and what might be a useful set of ideas to explore for moving into and through some healing around any experiences as a veteran, or if you've been in reserve work and have to make that transition back into civilian life. I've been trying to turn on the microphone for area code 314. It seems like it might have worked. 314, you're in the air. Who do we have?
Hi, Dr. Tim. It's Doug in St. Louis.
Well, hello, Doug.
Hi.
Long time no hear from you. How are you?
I'm well, we'll leave that aside. I'm all right. But I wanted to try and refine my thinking about an idea that was kind of put on the plate for me with your last conversation with Susan, which is, I mean, I have some ideas about it, but to refine it further, like in society or in culture or in science or in anything, we sort of amalgamate an idea of well, this idea, there's one way of thinking where there are certain ideas that have a better outcome than certain other ideas, and then sometimes that morphs over into judgment about the ideas that don't have the best outcome, or sometimes there's another school of thought that seems to have risen in culture where all ideas are equivalent, and anyone who suggests differently is somehow in error. And I'm trying to sort that out a little bit more. So I wondered if I'm asking the question clearly enough, or if you have any thoughts about that.
Well,
you can help me with.
I don't know about if you've asked it clearly enough, but my brain certainly isn't receiving a question yet. So keep going.
Okay. So you were talking with Susan about the importance of having forgiveness and non-judgment around different kinds of lifestyles, different kinds of ways for people to love others in the world. Is that clear enough right there so far?
Yes.
Okay, and so I was raised with a pretty strong conservative viewpoint that had an element of judgment that said, well, a relationship between a man and a woman is the better way to go. And more than that, to suggest that any other kind of relationship, well, there was an element of judgment at least in there, which I totally think is unconstructive. But also I see in society how we've moved to a place where there's a school of thinking that's been going on for some time that any idea is the equivalent of any other idea. Any way of doing something is the equivalent of any other way. So like if I were an employee, well, if this way of getting this job done works best, you'll get more widgets done and they'll be more accurate. And I say, oh, no, I want to do it my own way, and I do it some other way. And I say, my way is just as good as your idea, even though it has a different percentage of outcome or, so even on that topic, and I don't want to focus on that topic per se, it's a more broad question of how do I sort out not getting caught up in just saying, well, everything is okay and equivalent with everything else because I have no judgments or no assessments versus the obvious, of course, of saying, well, some ideas seem to create better outcomes, and maybe there should be some territory for a difference between that and judgment. I just want to try and refine that more in my mind. Is that better?
Well, so the thing that comes to me to say in response to what you're discussing here and putting on the table is that I tend to enjoy the results I get when I am results-oriented. So if it's for me and I say, I'm observing that when I do this, I get these kind of results, and I prefer to have different results, then I don't care who's saying that, no, that's right, Tim, just keep doing it. If I'm not enjoying the results, I want to be results-oriented, and so I will shift until I start to get results that are more in line with what I want. And so if somebody else wants to judge that, that's up to them. So for you, if it's, the best thing for you is to be in judgment and you like the results when you're in judgment, go ahead and be in judgment, right? If you like the results better when you just live in allowance or in observation, then live in allowance and observation.
I like the latter much better, but I find that I also feel like I like the results much better when there's an acknowledgement that some ways of doing something create better outcomes than other ways. And so I have trouble with...
Who do you need that acknowledgement from? Well, I would suggest that you just get content with knowing it for yourself without looking for the acknowledgement from the outside.
I think that's a great suggestion.
I think if you're looking for the acknowledgement from the outside, you're in a prison of your own creation.
Yeah. And that's really and we're getting towards what I need to do. Getting towards where my work is. Because I want to, not be, I'm going to release myself from that prison, also from the prison of feeling like, and how to deal with, well, it is a prison for me to say, well, I think if I say that there are some things that work better, and it can be in any area, like, for example, what I think would be financially responsible for the nation, for example. I have ideas about that. And then someone else says, oh, no, I think this way of doing things is much better. And if you present, teach, or offer up your ideas, then I'm going to actually condemn you, judge you, say you're bigoted or you're inappropriate. And that's where I start to get caught and want to hide my view, or start to question my view. And so I can see maybe I was on the edge of it, and now it's gotten a little further away, some kind of a worksheet about just that my ideas are good enough to be shared and let others receive them or not, or something like that.
Okay, well, the word that came to me that you were using was, to have acknowledgement. And so, the worksheet or the mind shifter would be around how it's safe and healing for me when, the people I trust and respect don't acknowledge my viewpoints.
Okay.
And
maybe another one around it's safe and healing for others to
disagree.
Judge me for my viewpoint. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's where I find I'm limited. I just would rather hide than engage in an honest expression of an area where someone else has a much different point of view. And that is in a way hiding my own, quote, light or error, I guess. It's
right. And it's also
like
about
that.
how, well, yeah, and it's also about how you want them to acknowledge the value of yours, your position or your opinion. And that's just not up to your control. So when you want somebody else to do something that they don't do, you've just created a prison for yourself.
Absolutely. Yes. That's the problem that I'm trying to get out of, yes. And to create more liberty around within my own self to be. So I think that's, I didn't write down that mind shifter, but I'm going to go back and listen to this conversation, and I'll pick it up.
Well, you'll probably be able to get several of them out of there.
Safe and healing for me to. Yeah, well, I'm sure I will. Okay, I think that got me into where I need to go and work. So that's what I wanted to do here. Thank you,
sir. All right,
sir.
excellent.
All right.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call.
Sure.
So I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you. Good conversations going on. I did put a link to the True Hard Work of Love and Relationships. I put that link in the notes for today. And did you say you were interviewing her on this Wednesday?
No, I'm going to interview the author of the book, We Are the Luckiest. Her name is Laura McGowan, and that's this Wednesday.
Okay.
And that's a book where, even though she is somebody who has written about, coming back from really, really heavy alcohol addiction, I recommend the book to people not because of the alcohol addiction issues, but because of her realization at very deep levels that the only thing that brings true healing is this radical honesty with self and then eventually with others.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And that's for the Journey's Dream on Your Mind podcast that I've made a commitment to help them with that project.
Gotcha. So you're interviewing her on their podcast, not on the radio show?
Right. If it comes out in usable format, I will share it with this audience, but it's one of those that's, as I put out the request for people to suggest authors and speakers and spiritual teachers that they'd like to have me interview, I've had very few come from our audience, but if we get somebody, we'll bring them on to the Mind Shifters radio show.
Awesome.
So have a wonderful show.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Monday, February